Greetings. This is Module 4, Lesson 3 notes about percent, part, and whole. Let's get started. Our aim is that Kipsters will be able to calculate percent given a part and whole. Key point 1, we have some notes here. So a quantity, the definition is just the amount of something. And I want you to make a note that it can be more than 100%. Because today in our examples we'll see a few cases where our quantity exceeds 100%. So our formula for quantity is that quantity equals percent times whole. Another way we could think about this is part equals percent times whole. Here's an example. How many students is 50% of a class with 30 students? Well, we could use a formula that quantity equals the percent, which is 50%, times the whole, which is 30 students. So the quantity equals 0 5/10 times 30. Quantity equals 15 students. So 15 students is 50% of a class of 30 students. Almost all questions are worded in this way. And this is what we're going to use for each example. So they're almost all worded as part of, and then they're going to give you the whole. So it's going to be part of whole. Let's see for example 1. I'm going to delete the notes and scroll down. Okay, there are 750 students in the 7th grade class and 625 students in the 8th grade class at Kent Middle School. What percent is the 7th grade class of the 8th grade class at Kent Middle School? Step 1, identify whole, the part or the quantity, which today we're going to use these or consider these to be the same thing, and the percent. So what's the whole? Well, let's think about. Remember, we're going to have part of the whole. So this first one, we have what percent is the 7th grade class of the 8th grade class? So that tells me the whole is going to be 8th grade. I'm just going to put 8th G. The part or the quantity will be 7th G. And our percent is what we are solving for. So we can use a variable P for percent. Now we do have numbers. Let's see, 750 students in 7th grade. So the part or the quantity is 750, and 625 students in 8th grade. So let's fill that out, 625. Okay, step 2, write the formula and plug in your information. I want you to actually write the formula to get some practice repeating this formula. Quantity equals percent times whole. Okay, we have our quantity, that's 750, equals, percent is P, and our whole is 625. Let's go ahead and solve this equation. So I have 750 equals P times 625. If I want to get P by itself, I divide this side by 625. If I do that to one side, I must do it to the other. So divide by 625. On the left, I know on the right that these two will just cancel out to be 1. So I'm going to have some number, this fraction, is going to be equal to P. Well, what is this fraction equal to? If you have some spare room, we could do the long division. So if you did our long division, this would be 750 divided by 600. I did that twice. Divided by 625. So 625 goes into 750 one time. We get 625. I subtract. I'm going to get 125. I need to add a 0, so take care of my decimal. It goes straight up. Carry down a 0. 625 goes into 1250 two times. It's exactly 1,250. Subtract, no remainder, and we're done. So 1 2/10 equals P. And a couple lessons ago, we learned how to convert this to a percentage. You move the decimal place 2 spots to the right, remember? So for a percentage, this would be 120%, and that's our answer. Now, it might look weird because it's more than 100, but remember we said, hey, the quantity can be more than 100%. Why is it more than 100%? Well, the 7th grade class is larger than the 8th grade class, so what percent is the 7th grade class of the 8th grade class? Well, it's going to be above 100% because it's larger, and we calculated it will be exactly 120%. Let's go to page 2. Okay, at Kent Middle School, there are 104 students in the band and 80 students in the choir. What percent of the number of students in the choir is the number of students in the band? Go ahead and do step 1. Identify the whole, the part of the quantity, and the percent. Good, so we should see that the whole, it's going to be the one that we have something of the whole. So what percent of the number of students in the choir, our whole is going to be choir, and then it says is the number of students in the band. So this one's worded a little bit differently, but what percent of this thing is band? So band is going to be our part or our quantity. Percent, we're finding out, we'll use a variable P. We do have numbers here. We have 104 students in band. We have 80 students in choir. Good. Now that we have our information, go ahead to step 2, write the formula and plug in your information. Fantastic. So we should have written down quantity equals percent multiplied by whole. That's our formula. Our quantity for this example is 104. That equals our percent, we're saying is P, and the whole is 80. Good. With this formula, go ahead and solve your equation for P. Good. Let's rewrite the equation. So 104 equals P times 80. We want to solve for P. So we're going to divide the right side by 80. If we do that to one side, we must do that to the other. Divide this side by 80. Now I know on the right I'm going to have just P because these will cancel to be 1. But what is 104 divided by 80? Well, thanks to the power of long division, we can find out. 104 divided by 80. Don't be afraid of long division. It's actually one of your best friends in this class. So 80 times 1 gives us 80. 104 minus 80 is 24. Now, don't lose your decimal. It goes straight up. Add a 0, carry it down. 80 goes into 240 3 times. 80 times 3 is exactly 240. We subtract. Nice, no remainder. So what that tells me is 1 3/10 equals P. What is that as a percentage? Remember, you would move the decimal place 2 to the right, and we would get 130%. Go ahead and complete number 3 and check your work against the key. Great job. Okay, here is the key for number 3. So lunch is the whole, breakfast is the part, percent we use P. We plug in this information to the same formula. Then we want to solve for P. We divide both sides by $3.75. This fraction reduces to 1/3. 1/3 is equal to 33 1/3%, and that is our answer.